Well, this was a long time coming. You knew Kevin Durant was going to get traded eventually. I just didn't know if it would happen on the same day as Game 7. And of course, it's the NBA, so everything had to happen today. KD officially moved to the Rockets. I mean, that was one of the three destinations he wanted to go to. But that's not the real story of this. The real story of this, I think, is what Phoenix got back in return. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, I should say. That's great. Great way to start a video, screwing up 30 seconds in. The number 10 pick of the draft and 5 second-round picks. This was one of those that Phoenix had their hands tied. They had no leverage in this situation. But man, that has got to be depressing if you're the Suns to just get, I don't want to say nothing, but it feels a whole lot like nothing for Kevin Durant.
I think it looks like nothing too compared to the Desmond Bain trade that happened a little bit ago, a
Yeah.
little while ago, and all the picks they got for him. So I think that to look at this return that the Suns get back for a guy like Durant, I mean, I think it just goes to show where an aging superstar, is valued around the league. And I think part of it too is your point to start, Kate, is we knew this trade was going to happen, right? So when you know a trade is going to happen, more often than not, that leverage for a player is going to go down, and you really saw his value drop in this trade. And obviously, a Rockets team that took off this year and fell short of getting to the finals, but a team that was right there in the standings makes a big move for a superstar that hopefully, especially on the offensive end, can get them in a good spot next year.
I do think this trade was, how do I put this, poorly marketed by the Suns. Yes, everybody knows you're going to trade them, but guys, remember the Utah Jazz a few years ago got Rudy Gobert and gave up 4 first-round draft picks. I know KD's aging, but the conversation of on Phoenix starts with, hey, I'm getting at least 3 first-round draft picks because it's Kevin Durant. This is the guy whose game you could argue is kind of Dirk-esque in the way it's probably going to be ageless, right? If he wants to play till 40, Durant's going to be an effective player until he's 40 years old. I mean, and Houston's desperate to get over the hump, as are the rest of these Western Conference teams. I mean, this is on the eve of, or the day of, the NBA Finals. So why did you not push for more in that trade? I mean, any contender probably would have forked over at least some first-round picks for that. I don't understand that. You got one, but you should have got more for sure. For Houston, though, Cade, I mean, does this really move the needle? I don't know if it does.
I mean, the only thing for Houston, and I mean, this was the conversation we were having, Tyler, earlier today, was, how much of a needle can you move from the 2 seed to the 2 seed? You were 18 games behind the Thunder. And I think this does make Houston a better team. I think Jalen Green, he's very young still. He's 23, but we've seen some of the inconsistencies, did not have a good first round. Dylan Brooks, we know who Dylan Brooks is at this point. You'll lose a little bit of defense there. You'll lose a little bit of that attitude, edge, whatever, toughness, whatever word you want to use to describe his type of play. You lose some of that, but you get KD here, who, keep in mind, yeah, he's 37, but he's still dropping 25. He's still absolutely going out there and balling. I think you make a great point. He is a very timeless game. He can keep playing as long as he wants to. But this is a situation for Houston where, you only have KD on a 1-year deal. And yeah, he said he wants to be there, but it's Kevin Durant. I mean, how many teams has he been on at this point in the last few years? I mean, this is his 3rd team in 6 years. He can decide, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going somewhere else. And this entire experiment just crumbles before it can really get started. Houston, it's just, I feel like the West is in this weird kind of cycle it's about to go through, where we know where Oklahoma City is. We kind of know where everyone else is. We know there's a middle and we know there's a bottom. We just don't know who all's going to be in that middle to really upper tier, because someone's got to be the 2 seed. It might be Houston. It might be Denver. The Clippers, if they can ever stay healthy enough, might try to get in there. Minnesota might be there. The Lakers might be there. There's so many teams that, and this is the beauty of the draft and the offseason. We've still got a lot more to figure out. This is the first piece of the puzzle. But man, this is a good move for Houston. Phoenix, I don't know what Phoenix is going to look like. You've got 3 shooting guards on your team, and there's only one shooting guard spot. You've got Devin Booker. You have Jalen Green now. You still have Bradley Beal, who refuses to leave. He doesn't want to leave. He likes Phoenix, and I never thought the Suns would have a problem where someone likes Phoenix so much and they want someone to go so bad. But I mean, you can just pull up the depth chart right now for the Suns. A lineup of Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, and Nick Richards. And this is just what ESPN has right now. I'm not saying this is going to be the starting lineup. Again, it's June still. We got a long ways to go. But can you look at me dead in the eyes and tell me that's a team that's better than the play-in? Can you really tell me that?
So, but I think that's where Phoenix realized they had a problem on their hand. I mean, especially with Kevin Durant being unhappy, they kind of had to make a move. And I think with uh, the quick turnaround, I mean, from the last game of the NBA season, obviously Game 7 falling on Sunday, June 22nd, and then the draft happening Wednesday, June 25th, teams kind of got to act fast. And I think you saw that kind of chain reaction here, and that's kind of where the way Phoenix felt was at this point, they've been trying to shop him since the season ended, and this is probably one of the better offers they were going to get. And getting a top 10 pick is the way they want to rebuild their team. Because, like you said, Kate, some of these guys aren't going anywhere, and we've seen them not being able to trade these guys. So I think this was probably one of the better moves they were going to be able to make for a guy for this team. And I think they realized, without Kevin Durant, right, this team isn't going anywhere, and it's time to kind of accept that reality and start building for the future.
I think it's interesting in talking about this trade. Kevin Durant's an MVP of the league. He's an NBA champion. How much, I don't want to say harm, but if this is the best you could get for a player of that caliber, yes, we know he's 37. He's towards the end of his road, but he's still putting up numbers. How much of Kevin Durant's persona of being kind of a me first guy, which has been proven in the long run, how much does that hurt him? Because there's teams now that I think who would have traded for him, maybe who would have thought about harder if he hadn't had kind of the back half of his career he's had, where it's clear, he's more about KD first most of the time. What's the best situation for KD? Not to say he's hugely egotistical, but like him and Harden have kind of been that way, and I feel like some teams with his age now are saying, I don't really want to put up with that. I think that's fascinating in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that the report I saw earlier today, and I mean, this was going through all of it. I'll kind of hit what you were talking about first. Miami was the other main figure in this. It came down to a race, really, at the end of the day, between Houston and Miami. San Antonio was kind of the third. I heard some stuff floating around out there that Toronto and Denver tried to get last minute packages. Minnesota tried to throw something in earlier in the week or last week, however you really define what Sunday is. Uh, Katie said, no, I don't want to play for Minnesota. That knocks them out. San Antonio, Phoenix said, okay, give us the number 2 pick or give us Castle. And San Antonio said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We like our future. We don't want to throw it away or throw some of it away, at least, for Kevin Durant at 37 years old. I get that from San Antonio's side. But the reports I saw today coming out of Miami, that they didn't want to give up Jaime Jaquez. They didn't want to give up Haywood Highsmith. They didn't want to give up any of their pieces. They didn't want to really give up a draft pick if they felt like they didn't have to. They did not want to do a whole lot in terms of getting Kevin Durant. They wanted to as few assets as possible. And that's what is telling to me. And you might be, that's why I think you're onto something possibly there, Tyler. That even if Miami, who you're in the East, that, unfortunately, Jason Tatum going to be out. Tyrese Halliburton, what happened in Game 7 of the finals, this video will be coming out after that. He's going to be out. The window would be open for a team like Miami. KD, even if it's just for a year, he could will that team. Miami was already a play-in team. They could try to will themselves a little bit further and say, hey, if the matchup plays right, who knows what Miami can do. They did that a few years ago with Jimmy Butler and willed their way to an NBA Finals. But the fact that Miami didn't want to do that, that tells me something. And that's what I am intrigued to see with Houston is how long does this experiment last? Because this is 2 teams in a row now that KD's been on where, Phoenix went nowhere. They went downhill. Brooklyn went somewhere, but by a toenail, they get beat by Milwaukee. And then what would we see happen with Brooklyn? That team eventually imploded and everyone went their separate ways. So can Houston be that third time's the charm and break that seal? I don't know. And that's what's going to be the big gamble about it. It sounds stupid to say the big gamble of getting Kevin Durant, but that's the gamble that Houston's about to take here.
My question would be, I mean, we're talking about how little they had to give up, and we thought that Suns could get more for Durant. Is it really a gamble? I mean, in the end, I mean, this draft class isn't the strongest from a top tier standpoint. You mentioned the struggles. I know he's a younger player in Jalen Green, and then obviously a veteran in Dylan Brooks. Like, what did the Rockets really give away in this trade that you're sitting here saying you really gambled something going forward?
Yeah, no, for Houston's side of this, Andrew, to your point, like it's not completely risk free, but it's again, you're getting an MVP of the league and an NBA champion for what you gave up. You got to be feeling good. It may not improve you, a ton of wins like we were talking about, where hey, you're already the second seed, but it might give you enough separation to put you in a better, first round playoff matchup next year, and that might be enough. The West is tough, so every little piece matters, right? You're going to be in a highly competitive field, and Kevin Durant, you can at least say, hey, he's been there, done that. That will add some experience to that team with some of those guys you got now that, quite frankly, need a little bit of that. So for them, not a huge risk. I think the more fascinating aspect of this is now, and Cade, we were talking about this, earlier off here. Like, if I'm Phoenix, I know you want to stay committed to Devin Booker, but Devin Booker's 28. You don't have time to rebuild around him because by the time you do, he's going to be over 30 probably. It's going to take at least a year, maybe two. That's if you hit on everything. And he's a good player. Why not flip him when he's at his prime? I mean, take a page out of the Thunder playbook. They did it with Paul George. They get back SGA. I'm not saying there's another SGA out there walking around, but go identify a young guy you could go get that could maybe help you quickly rebuild and get some draft picks. I mean, that's where this thing is right now, especially, and we've talked about this in other videos with where the cap is right now and how they've structured some of that. You're not going to be able to just go sign a bunch of free agents and call it good. That's not how it works anymore. You can't have your big three, quote unquote, come together like they did in Miami. Where you can't have, you got to be a little bit more homegrown. Golden State did that, and they're nice with Draymond, Clay, and Steph. Like, you've got to do it through the draft and then find the right pieces to complete the puzzle in free agency, but it can't just, oh, we're going to go sign people and be okay. It's not how it works. So flip Devin Booker now. I know they say right now they're not going to, but I'm interested to see if that changes as we get either closer to the draft or maybe just after it, as some of these other teams go through free agency and say, man, we got to load up. Maybe you could convince a team to give you a king's ransom because they're that desperate to get over the hump.
Yeah, I think Devin Booker's bringing more than Kevin Durant did. So, I mean, to that point, I think that gets you a quicker rebuild too.
Yeah, and the interesting point that I've seen that when this trade happened earlier today, a lot of people were kind of speculating, social media wise, that okay, is this a kind of the conversation we're having right now? Is this a do you get one of these guys just to trade him immediately? A lot of people were thinking, okay, you're getting Jalen Green, you're going to flip him for assets, you're going to flip Devin Booker, maybe you're going to start this rebuild process. But all the intel I've seen from Suns reporters on social media is that the plan is they think this is a cord that they're going to try to run with Devin Booker and Jalen Green and see if they can still somehow find a way to move Bradley Beal. Which at some point, I don't know when push is going to come to shove, and you just have to realize Bradley Beal does not want to get out of Phoenix. He's one of three guys in the league with a no trade clause. I don't know what you do about Bradley Beal.
Well, his contract's offered. You're just going to have to eat that.
Yeah.
You made that move, you live with it.
Yeah.
So you're not getting out from that. That's why you trade Booker now, get as much as you can, because you're not getting anything out of Bradley Beal, even if you somehow convince him to waive his no trade clause.
That's the problem, Brad Beal. You're not going to get much for him anyway. On top of
Yeah.
him wanting to leave, he can't stay healthy. Talk about a guy that can't. I don't think he hasn't played more than 60 games since the 2020-2021 season. So this guy hasn't been a guy that can stay on the floor either.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I don't know what Phoenix does here. I mean, they honestly, the idea of wanting to run this core is going to be one of the most intriguing experiments I think Phoenix is going to undertake here, where just the refusal to tank the best way I feel like everyone thinks is I don't know. My brain is broken the more I have to think about what Phoenix is trying to do here. The idea of running this three shooting guard lineup, and I get Beal will probably come off the bench still in that six man role. But just the idea of trying to run a lineup of Booker, Green, and Al, you have three guys essentially playing the same position out there. Three guys who are mainly, your scoring guard type of deal. I don't know. Phoenix has to have something else. I refuse to believe they're going to do this, draft someone at 10 and say, all right, guys, we're going to get a few depth pieces. This is going to be our team this year. Have fun. And then you look at it on the Houston side. I mean, Fred VanVleet, ESPN's depth chart right now believes it's going to be Reed Shepard, Amen Thompson, KD, and Shingun. Some people said, no, you don't put Shepard in there. You go VanVleet, Amen, KD, Jabari Smith Jr., and Shingun. I saw some people, Tyler, you will love this, about going the full 2K lineup of going VanVleet, Amen, KD is the small forward, Shingun at power forward, and letting your man Steven Adams be a starting center since he got his contract.
Yeah, they give him 3 years, 39, and hey, that's not bad. That's a little chemistry there between Steven and KD, former teammates. So that it could pay dividends. I don't know, but either way, I mean, Houston's got options. That's good for them, right? They could really kind of take the draft and free agency to kind of line their puzzle and figure out what's the best fit for them going forward. Because obviously, you got sent around KD, but you got some good pieces both on the offensive side and defensively that could help, strengthen him or highlight his best aspects at this age. On the Phoenix side, I think the big thing we got to remember too is, and they don't, let's say this, they don't know what they really want. They've got an owner that's still relatively new. Yeah, got the team in 2022, but he came in saying, hey, we're going to be a winner. I'm going to put out a championship product. Well, that hasn't happened. So now he's scrambling to figure out, okay, how can I still live up to that promise without going full take back? When he should just say, hey, you know what? And he has owned it a bit. Hey, we missed, right? So why not just go full in on retooling and rebuilding? But that's a tough thing to do when you're a billionaire and you're not used to failing. So, for a relatively new owner in that sense, that you got to go through that pain, I guess, if you're a Phoenix fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be interesting for Phoenix. And I mean, this is how the NBA works. Teams will rise, teams will fall. But 3 years ago, we're talking about Phoenix as that team. They are on the up and up. They're that team. They're going to be here for a while and cause problems. And the only one left is Devin Booker now. He went through the entire cycle of, hey, Phoenix might be good one day, to wow, they're here, they're in the finals, to man, maybe Phoenix will be good one day. And he'll turn 29 when the season starts. I mean, he went through the full NBA career in a decade. I mean, that is just absolutely nuts to think about. And then for Houston here, talked about their starting lineup already a little bit. They're going to have a lot of options. They're going to be insanely good again. And this will be a question that we don't have to have an answer for a while. But my only thing is going to be, where does Houston go next once KD gets out of there? Whether it be he retires there, whether it be he leaves in free agency or demands a trade, or who knows what happens with KD. This is a question that, no one's going to have an answer for because it's not time to think about that. But my only question is going to be, how long does this little window stay open for Houston, or do they keep finding ways to extend it?
I think they keep finding ways to extend it. I think this team's very well built. Um, I think their window. I mean, they got a lot of talent too. I mean, obviously Fred VanVleet's on a good deal. They got a lot of younger pieces as well to mix here, and I think again Durant's gonna be an option that comes in, and if he really truly values it in a spot he likes. I mean, as we talked about earlier, in this show, like he's a guy that can continue to play deep. I mean, as long as he's going out there putting up numbers, he'll be a guy that continues to play. And if he wants to go back there, he will. So I mean, I think this window is open for multiple years for Houston.
You got anything to add there, Tyler?
I mean, no, I think
No.
Andrew
Okay.
summed up well. Like they're, kind of in that spot really where they're experimenting now. They realize they've got a core that they could work with. And now it's about, figuring out that last couple of moves to say, okay, we put ourselves into contender status. They're not quite there yet, but they're getting to that point.
Yeah, they're definitely getting there. Houston will be another one of those forces to deal with in the West. Why can't someone go to the East for once? Like, come on, man. Like, why couldn't KD have
We
just
should
gone to
have
Miami?
realignment.
We
Just be
should
able
have.
to
I
shift it
agree.
every couple of years,
That
rebalancing the league.
that's another time. That's another video for another time. We just need to move Memphis or Minnesota to the East. Get our 2 expansion teams in Seattle and Vegas. Whenever that happens, we just got to move some. Andrew, I'm sorry, as you're someone in the East or East fan at least. We got to make y'all's lives a little bit more difficult. I'm so it's too crowded in the West.
Hey, we had our time already. It's the West's turn.
There you go. That's probably the best way to look at it. But folks, as always, if you made it all the way through the video, we do appreciate it. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell to always be notified when new videos come out. Leave a comment down below. We always appreciate it. No matter what you say, it does help the YouTube algorithm. Why it does that, I don't know. I can't tell you. That's not my job, but we do appreciate it either way. Over 150 subscribers, trying to get to 200 before we get to football season, because that's lurking around the corner. We'll have the NBA draft, we'll have the off season, the free agency. That'll be a whole maddening situation because people keep saying this is going to be one of those big free agency types of years. I know it feels like that's said every year. NBA offseason always goes absolutely crazy. You're going to want to stick around for that. If you're listening on Spotify, give us 5 stars over there. What an eventful day. Thunder win a championship, and KD is a Rocket. Until next time, folks, have a good one, everybody.